They were told the money already existed. Court settlements, signed, approved, waiting. In a hotel conference room with the blinds half closed, a presenter flipped through slides showing docket numbers and payout dates. The notes paid quarterly. Low risk, court-backed, better than bonds. The room nodded along, pens moved, checks cleared. The first payments arrived on time, small, clean, just enough to silence doubt. Then a clerk said she could not find the case. Another clerk said sealed cases still left a trail. A compliance analyst asked for source wires and was told not to slow the machine. Investors were reminded that judges hate publicity. Patience was framed as sophistication. Behind the scenes, payments came from new buyers, not courts. The calendar tightened. Sales calls grew sharper. Final tranche was whispered like a favor. One recorded call cut through the noise. No court wires, no settlements, just paper designed to look official. By the time the truth surfaced, the notes had already matured in people's lives. Rent, tuition, retirement. The product promised certainty. What it sold was time. Chapter 1. Setup and stakes. The pitch happened in rooms built for trust. Hotel ballrooms with thick carpet and low light. Private offices with framed licenses on the wall. Conference calls scheduled midweek when markets felt calm. The product had a simple name. Settlement notes. The explanation was delivered even simpler. These were slices of court settlements, civil cases already resolved, money awarded, approved, and scheduled for payment. Investors were told they were stepping in between verdict and payout. They were not betting on outcomes. They were buying time. A presenter stood at the front of a room in Midtown and clicked through slides. Each slide showed a case number, a court seal, a judge's name. The payout dates were listed in clean rows: 90 days, 180 days, 12 months, fixed returns, low volatility, court-backed. He spoke calmly. No hype. He said the cases were sealed, which explained why they could not be found online. He said confidentiality protected plaintiffs and judges alike. He said the firm had structured access through legal partners. Everything had been vetted. The audience leaned forward. These were not day traders. They were dentists, small fund managers, family offices, people who asked about risk in measured tones. They asked about enforcement. They asked about appeals. They asked what happened if a defendant delayed payment. The presenter had answers ready. Escrow accounts, structured timelines, priority claims. He said the notes were not correlated with the market. He said they behaved more like receivables than securities. He did not rush. Folders were passed out. Inside were summaries that looked official. Headings were formal. Language echoed court orders. Each summary listed a case caption, jurisdiction, and expected disbursement. A watermark ran across each page. Authenticity was part of the design. The first buyers committed modest amounts. $10,000, $25,000. Enough to test the process. They were told not to overthink it. This was not an opportunity that needed belief. It needed patience. 90 days later, checks arrived. On time. The amounts matched the schedules. The memos referenced the case numbers from the folders. No drama. No delays. Just money landing where it was supposed to land. Word spread quietly. The second round filled faster. The presenter did fewer slides and more conversations. He emphasized consistency. He said courts move slowly, but they moved. He said the firm had learned to live inside that rhythm. Inside the company, the operation expanded. Sales desks grew. New hires were trained to speak in plain language, avoid jargon, avoid promises. Use documents. Let the paperwork do the convincing. A junior compliance analyst joined during this growth. Fresh degree, clean record. Her job was simple. Verify representations. Maintain internal files. Make sure what was said externally matched what existed internally. She began where she was trained to begin, with the cases. She searched public databases for the docket numbers listed in the summaries. She expected to find redactions or partial entries. She found nothing, no matches, no placeholders, no sealed indicators, just absence. She checked another jurisdiction, same result. She raised the question to her supervisor. He shrugged. Sealed cases often did not appear, he said. Different courts handled confidentiality differently. He suggested she focus on internal consistency instead. She did. The documents matched each other. The formatting was precise. The language followed legal conventions. But when she compared summaries across different cases, patterns emerged. Identical phrasing, identical sentence structure, even the same punctuation quirks. She flagged it as a stylistic issue. The supervisor smiled and said templates saved time. Sales volume continued to rise. Investors reinvested returns. New buyers asked for larger allocations. The firm responded by releasing additional notes, each one tied to a different settlement. Different parties, different courts, always the same tone of certainty. Then a new name appeared in the pitch decks. A retired judge. His name sat on a slide titled Oversight. He was described as an advisor. A safeguard. Someone who understood the system from the inside. No one claimed he signed off on specific notes. No one said he guaranteed outcomes. But his presence changed the room. Questions softened. Trust thickened. The analyst noticed the addition and requested documentation. Engagement letters. Advisory scope. Anything that defined the relationship. She was told the judge valued privacy. She was told the agreement was verbal. She was told not to create paper where none was required. She pushed once more. She asked for at least a confirmation email. Something to show due diligence. The response was brief. Do not overcomplicate a working model. Outside the office, investors compared notes, literally. They showed each other summaries. They noticed how clean everything looked. They talked about how boring the returns were. Boring felt safe. A few tried to verify cases on their own. They called clerk offices and asked general questions. Clerks said sealed cases still generated internal records. Clerks said they could confirm existence even without details. When asked about specific docket numbers, clerks said they could not locate them. The investors brought this back to the firm. The explanation was rehearsed. Multi-jurisdictional filings, confidential settlements routed through special calendars, judges who discouraged clerks from casual disclosure. The system was complex. That complexity was framed as protection. The analyst documented each concern. She logged the clerk responses. She noted the repeated language across documents. She noted the reliance on secrecy as a shield. Her file grew thicker. Her access did not. She requested a meeting with compliance leadership. She laid out her findings without accusation. Missing dockets, template overlap, the absence of third-party verification. The room listened politely. Then one executive spoke. He said the firm had never missed a payment. He said investors were satisfied. He said raising unnecessary doubts could create harm where none existed. He reminded her of the difference between risk and uncertainty. Risk was measurable. Uncertainty was noise. Sales numbers were shared, growth curves, retention rates. The message was clear. The machine was working. After the meeting, she received a calendar invite. Product alignment review. Mandatory attendance. The meeting focused on messaging discipline. Sales language had to remain consistent. Questions about verification were to be routed upward. No one junior should speculate. Confidence was part of the product. The analyst left with a knot in her chest. She did not see fraud. She saw gaps. Gaps where verification should live. She returned to her desk and opened the internal payment tracker. She traced payouts to their source accounts. The entries were clean. Funds arrived. Funds left. Everything balanced. What she could not see was origin beyond the firm. The ledger stopped at internal transfers. She drafted a final request. Source verification for court payouts. Not details, just confirmation that funds originated from court-controlled accounts tied to settlements. She sent it to compliance leadership. The reply came an hour later. 2 sentences. The cases are sealed. This is above your pay grade. She stared at the screen as the office hummed around her. Phones rang. Deals closed. Another tranche filled. The notes kept selling. Chapter 2. Escalation and reversal. The first delay was small enough to excuse. One payment arrived 3 days late. The explanation was routine. Court scheduling. End of quarter processing. Nothing to worry about. Investors accepted it. Courts moved slowly. Everyone knew that. Then another payment slipped. This time by a week. The firm sent an email before questions formed. A scheduling conflict in a regional court. A holiday backlog. The language was calm. Apologetic but firm. Sales calls did not slow. They sharpened. The phrase final tranche appeared more often. Scarcity was framed as courtesy. Longtime partners were given priority access. Inside the office, the mood shifted. Calendars tightened. Conversations lowered. The internal payment tracker still balanced, but the timing grew uneven. Funds arrived closer to due dates. Sometimes on the morning of, the compliance analyst noticed the pattern. She compared incoming funds to outgoing obligations. The gap narrowed. The cushion thinned. She asked where the money was coming from when it arrived so close to distribution. She was told liquidity management was complex. She was told not to misread timing as risk. An investor pushed harder. A fund manager who had placed 7 figures called and demanded confirmation of a specific case. He said his auditors required proof of existence, not details, just confirmation that a settlement existed in a named court. The firm stalled. They promised to respond. They asked for patience. The investor called a clerk directly and recorded the conversation for his records. The clerk searched internal systems and found nothing. No sealed file, no restricted docket, nothing under the provided number. The investor sent the recording to his contact at the firm. The response was immediate and defensive. Clerks made mistakes. Multi-party settlements were often recaptioned. Docket numbers could change post-resolution. The firm said it would clarify. They did not. Inside the firm, an internal spreadsheet circulated quietly. It was labeled Cash Flow Overview. It was not meant for broad access. The analyst saw it by chance when a colleague left a screen open. The spreadsheet showed incoming funds by week. The source column did not list courts. It listed note sales, tranche 3, tranche 4, renewal pool. Outgoing funds were labeled distributions. The math was simple. New money in, old money out. She copied the file name. She did not download it. She did not email it. She knew better. She requested a meeting with a senior compliance officer. She brought no accusations. She brought the pattern. Payments aligned with sales. No independent inflows from courts. The officer listened and sighed. He said the firm used bridge accounts. He said court funds arrived in bulk and were allocated later. He said the spreadsheet did not show the full picture. She asked to see the full picture. The answer was no. Around the same time, a former paralegal resigned. He had worked on document preparation. His exit was quiet. No farewell email, no handoff. The analyst reached out after hours, a neutral message. Hope you're well. Quick question about document sourcing? The reply came the next morning. He said he could not discuss internal matters. He said the templates were not what they appeared. He wished her luck. Sales leadership responded to delays by accelerating outreach. They framed it as transparency. They told investors the courts were slow, but the firm was proactive. Final tranches were positioned as a solution. Fresh capital would smooth timing. Everyone would be paid. The language changed. Less about courts, more about trust. An internal training call instructed sales to avoid specifics. Do not cite individual cases unless necessary. Focus on portfolio behavior. Emphasize track record. The retired judge's name was mentioned more often, not as a guarantee, as reassurance. The analyst watched payments line up against sales announcements. A tranche closed on Monday, funds arrived Tuesday, distributions went out Wednesday. She documented everything. Then a crack appeared. A senior salesperson made a call he should not have made. An investor pressed him hard about source funds. The salesperson tried to deflect. The investor insisted. The salesperson lowered his voice and said the quiet part out loud. There are no court wires backing these notes. It is structured differently. Everyone gets paid. The call was recorded. The investor did not respond. He ended the call and sat with the recording. He played it twice. Then he sent it to his attorney. The attorney forwarded it to a journalist. Inside the firm, leadership sensed trouble before they saw it. Calls grew tense. Compliance meetings multiplied. Accounts payable was told to prioritize distributions that week. The analyst was excluded from meetings she normally attended. Her access to internal trackers was reduced. Her calendar invites stopped. She received a message from Human Resources. A routine check-in. Investors began asking the same question in different ways. Where exactly does the money come from? Not eventually. Now, the firm issued a statement. Payments remained current. Delays were resolved. The product functioned as designed. Behind the statement, the machine strained. Sales had to keep up. Without new money, there would be nothing to send out. The analyst received one final internal email. It instructed staff to route all external inquiries through legal. No exceptions. She knew what that meant. The recording surfaced 2 days later in a newsroom inbox. It was authenticated, voices matched, context aligned. The journalist called the firm for comment. The line rang longer than usual. When it was answered, the voice on the other end asked for time. Chapter 3. Resolution and Aftermath. The call did not stay private. It never does. Once the recording landed in the newsroom, the story moved faster than the firm could react. Reporters played it frame by frame. They matched the voice to internal sales calls. They confirmed employment records. They verified dates against payment schedules. Then they went to the courts. Court administrators listened patiently. They searched internal systems using the docket numbers listed in the investor summaries. They checked sealed records. They checked restricted calendars. They checked archived civil settlements tied to the named jurisdictions. There were no matches, not one. The administrators issued written confirmations. No such settlements existed. No payouts were pending. No structured disbursements matched the descriptions provided by the firm. The journalist returned to the firm with the confirmations. This time, the request for comment came with evidence. The response was silence. Behind the scenes, accounts were already being locked. Banks flagged unusual flows, large sums in, large sums out. No third-party origin beyond investor wires. No court-controlled accounts. No escrow linked to judicial systems. Regulators moved quietly at first. They froze operating accounts tied to the note issuer. Distributions scheduled for that week did not go out. Investors noticed immediately. Phones lit up. Emails stacked. Sales desks had no script left to read. The phrase "final tranche" vanished. There was nothing left to sell. The firm released a statement hours later. It said operations were paused pending review. It said the product had been misunderstood. It said investor funds were safe. The statement avoided the word court. The compliance analyst watched the freeze notice hit internal systems. Access disappeared entirely. Her login failed. Her email locked. She did not feel relief. She felt the weight of confirmation. Journalists published the story that night, not as a scandal piece, as a document-driven account. Audio, court confirmations, payment flow analysis. A clean line from promise to reality. Settlement notes were not tied to courts. Payments were recycled capital. Early investors were paid with later money. The product functioned only as long as trust outpaced truth. Investors woke up to headlines. Some had reinvested returns. Others had rolled retirement funds. Some had convinced family members to participate. The maturity dates printed on the summaries meant nothing now. Civil attorneys lined up. Internal emails surfaced through discovery requests. Executives acknowledged in writing that courts were never involved. Language was crafted to imply judicial backing without stating it outright. Plausible deniability was not an accident. It was policy. The retired judge's name was addressed last. He issued a statement through counsel. He said he had never reviewed specific products. He said his name was used beyond his understanding. He said he received advisory fees but did not oversee operations. Regulators did not comment on intent. They focused on facts. Funds originated from investors. Funds were represented as court payouts. Those representations were false. Civil actions began immediately. Claims were filed for misrepresentation, fraud, and unjust enrichment. Criminal exposure loomed, but was not charged yet. The firm's offices emptied quietly. No dramatic exits. No boxes carried past cameras. Just locked doors and unanswered phones. The compliance analyst met with investigators weeks later. She brought her notes, her logs, her unanswered requests. She spoke in the same tone she always had, measured, careful, document-based. She was not accused of wrongdoing. She was thanked. Investors compared losses in private forums. Some were wiped out. Others recovered partial amounts through clawbacks. Many learned that returns they had already spent would be counted against them. Time became the real cost. Months later, court proceedings crawled forward. Motions, objections, delays, ironically slow, like the courts the product had pretended to use. No one rang a bell at the end. No clean resolution arrived on a schedule. Trust did not pay quarterly. The settlement notes were dissected in compliance trainings and regulatory bulletins. A case study in how paperwork can replace proof. How authority can be implied without being stated. How certainty can be sold without substance. The journalist moved on to another story. The analyst found new work. Investors recalibrated their lives. The product promised certainty. What it sold was time, and time ran out.